wouldn't it be nice to have several thought leaders in your industry know and love your brand? Start a podcast. Invite your industry's thought leaders to be guests on your show, and start reaping the benefits of having a network full of industry influencers. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to the B2B Growth Show, a podcast dedicated to helping B2B executives achieve explosive growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. I'm Jonathan Green.
And I'm James Carberry.
Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. We are here today with JT McCormick. He is the president and CEO at Book in a Box. JT, how are you doing today?
I am excellent, sir. Appreciate you having me on.
I'm excited to chat with you, JT. I heard you on Noah Kagan's podcast a few weeks ago, and as soon as I finished the episode, I reached out. I can't remember if it was on Twitter or LinkedIn, and asked you to join us on B2B Growth. You just are a wealth of knowledge around leadership. I think your story is fascinating. We're going to be talking about leadership and a little bit of B2B marketing as well. Some things that you guys have planned in 2018. But before we do that, JT, I'd love for you to just tell our listeners a little bit about Book in a Box and what you and your team are up to over there.
So what Book in a Box is, we have come up with a new way for people to publish their book. You and I both know you've met so many people that have said, oh, I've been wanting to write my book for the last 2 years, 5, 7 years. And so what we've done is made it easier for people to publish their book. And we've done it through a series of interviews. So high level, what we ask of you is to sit back, grab your beverage of choice, let us interview you, pull that information out, and structure the book for you. And the book is done in your content, your voice, your tone. So we're not ghostwriters. You don't come to us and say, hey, JT, will you go off and write a book about the iPhone? No, that's not what we do. We use your content, your voice, your tone.
I love it. I've been fascinated with the concept, and you guys have been growing like crazy, really since they started the company. Zach and Tucker Max started the company, I think three and a half years ago, something like that. Is that right?
A little over 2.5 years ago. So we're just right at 3 years. That
is wild. Can you speak to some of the growth that you guys have experienced?
Oh gosh. So one thing that we're incredibly proud of, that it's a little cocky, but we're really proud of it, is that we're just at 3 years old and we have no debt, no loans, no private equity money, and no VC money. And most importantly, we are profitable. So wow. we like to joke that we are the other unicorns. Everybody celebrates the $1 billion valuation, this mythical number, but we can actually show you a bottom line. So yes. Our growth has just been incredible. And right now we're just the greatest unknown. So many people don't know about us. And so in 2018, that's a big part of our focus, is to get the word out and let more people know about us. So thus far, right now, we've worked with 650 plus authors thus far.
Holy cow. Yeah. In 3 years. That's insane. That is that's phenomenal. So JT, you've got a bit of an interesting journey, because you came on board a little bit later in the Book in a Box story. Can you talk about kind of what led you to the team, and ultimately, you're the CEO now, but give us a little bit of context as to how that came to be.
Yeah, so I was president of a software company that we had grown from. I was there 5 years. We had grown from 13 people to well over 100 people, and I wanted to reach out and figure out how to write my book. Truth be told, I can't tell you an adverb from a pronoun, so I knew there was no way I was ever going to write the book. So I got introduced to Tucker and Zach, and I started writing my book. And so as I went through the process, I realized, wow, this is a great company. And Tucker had asked me, he said, hey, can you give us feedback on our company as you go through the process? And I said, yeah, sure, why not? One thing led to another. I called Tucker up after my first interaction with the company. I said, hey, do you still want that feedback? And he says, yes. I said, okay, you all are doing this great, keep doing this. over here, this is horrible, this sucks, and I don't know why you ever thought about doing this. And so he goes, damn, you got that out of an email. And I said, yeah. And so one thing led to another. He invited me to one of their executive meetings. He invited me to sit on their advisory board. Next thing I know, I wake up one morning and I'm CEO of the company. So
wow.
That's the high level overview. And I'll say this to you as well. I have the rare luxury to know the company from the outside in and now the inside out. So when we approach anything, I'm able to sit there and view it from, okay, how will the author view this? How will the author perceive this? And what's the experience going to be like for the author? Because, well, I was an author with the company before I became the CEO.
Yeah, no, I love that, JT. I love that story. I remember the blog post that Tucker wrote whenever I think they officially announced it, and I've been following along ever since, and love the growth you're experiencing. JT, something that I took note of whenever I was listening to the episode with Noah Kagan is just you are just a wealth of wisdom around leadership. When you're talking to a young leader, or when you're coaching, other companies, I'm sure you sit on, some advisory boards. And what are some of the biggest leadership principles that you find yourself talking about over and over and over again?
I would say first and foremost is leadership is not 3 letters. So just because you receive a CEO title, that does not make you a leader. That's a role. What makes you an actual leader are the people that you are working with. They choose to make you a leader. They choose to allow you to be the leader. You receiving 3 letters after your name, that's nothing but initials. Hell, I already had 2 in JT. I didn't need 3 more. So the biggest piece that I express to people is in leadership, eliminate the word I. In my. Stop making it a possession. No one, I'll give you another one that I share with individuals. No one works for me. People work with me. I'm no more important in the organization than those who are, let's be honest, doing all the work. Yep. And if you go to our website, you can actually see that. You go to most company websites, and the first thing you see on the About Us page, you see the C-suite executive, CEO, blah, 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 blah. Yep. If you go to ours, I'm at the bottom of the page. Why? Because I support the organization. And in fact, to be, we're talking marketing, I want you to see all of the individuals in our tribe who actually do the work before you get down and see me.
I love it. That's a concept that I hear, that I've heard before. And so I'm glad you reiterated this idea that you are not, those initials don't make you a leader. It's the team choosing to follow you that makes you a leader. What were some things that you did kind of taking over an existing team, JT? What were some of the things that you made sure that you wanted to do in those first maybe 3 to 6 months to get a pulse of kind of what the experience was going to look like, and how, like, real practically speaking, just what were the things you implemented early on that our listeners could learn from?
It really comes down to in so many companies the relationship. And so for me, I realized early on that we are not only a product company, we're a service company. And what I mean by that is you have the actual author experience. What is that experience like as you go through writing the book? And the book is the product. So our service is the author experience, and the product is the book. The worst thing that could happen for us is that you go through our process, you come out with this phenomenal book that you're proud of, but when someone says to you, hey, how was the experience? You go, oh my God, it was horrific. Well, that's horrible. So we have to perfect both sides of the house. The experience has to be great, and the product has to be great, which is the book itself. So immediately when I came in, I asked, okay, what's the number one touch point for our authors. And I went and served in that role for about 90 days to understand all of the different touch points that would go on with the authors themselves. So I came in with this, again, 3 letters after my name, but immediately I went into our publishing manager role because I wanted to work hand in hand with our authors and understand all the different touch points.
Got it. So you were working alongside those publishing managers, or you just kind of took over their responsibilities for the first 3 months. How did that work?
Oh, it was great because I got firsthand knowledge of what it was. Like I said, I was an author first with the company, so I knew it from the outside in, and now I was understanding it from the inside out. So I literally came in and became a publishing manager, and some of the authors I worked with knew I was the CEO, some did not. So I got to approach it and really walk the authors through the process, guide them through this author experience to ensure that we published an incredible book for them.
And so when you went through that process, you were in that role for, the first 90 days. What did it look like then to assess, okay, this is where we need to shift. These are the things that we need to do. How did you communicate those changes to the team in a way that actually made them want to implement it, as opposed to just kind of being the iron fist that came in and said, okay, I've gone, I've experienced kind of the front lines and this is what we're doing now. Is there any nuance to that, or is there an approach that you took so that you could kind of take what you gathered and then implement changes that actually make the product and the experience better?
So I believe there's a combination there when you're talking leadership now. Very easy to come in and play dictator and say, okay, this is what we're doing, and there's the iron fist, as you said. But there's also the combination of, okay, here's what I've seen through the process. You all tell me where we can enhance this. What am I not seeing? Is there anything additional we can do here? And lay out the facts of what I've taken from going as a publishing manager. And let's be honest, there are certain things that, yes, you just come in and say, okay, we're not doing this anymore. And that really happened more within the operational aspect of the company. We needed to put a dashboard together, things of that nature. So there were certain pieces that you just come in and say, okay, this is going to happen. And then there's other pieces that you're going to say, okay, how do we collaborate and tell me what I'm not seeing? What don't I understand? Or from the perspective of the people already with the company, the other tribe members, where do you all see that we can improve?
What's your relationship been with Zach and with Tucker, the two founders of the company, with you coming in and now being the CEO? What's that dynamic been like?
Whew, man. Well, anybody that knows Tucker, well, that in itself tells you something. But no, I say this to everyone, full transparency. It was a struggle early on because I had two founders that now I'm coming in as the CEO, and their expectation was, okay, JT, tell us what to do. And I in many ways treated them as the prima donna co-founders, didn't want to step on their toes. So it took time for me to realize that, okay, I'm the CEO, they're the co-founders. And the other dynamic that was interesting as well is Zach and Tucker also provided me equity in the company. So that really changed the dynamic as well, because now we had three owners, and it enabled me to put that relationship together a bit faster. But again, full transparency, it took time because I had these co-founders, one who has experienced incredible fame and success, one that's a 27-year-old millennial. So you've got two different dynamics. And what I expressed to everyone, and this is so important, it was incredible for me to see two founders willing to swallow their pride and say, hey, we don't know how to do this. We don't know how to scale a company. You know as well as I do, so many people can't get out of their own way. And it's very hard for someone to release that quote unquote CEO title. And in many ways, that's all it is. It's a title. Do you want a title or do you want a successful company?
Yeah,
which one?
That's so good. That's so good. So JT, with obviously a lot of marketers listening to this, as we were talking offline, you mentioned that there's some marketing things that you guys are doing at Book in a Box in 2018 that you're really excited about. Can you give us a bit of a peek into what you guys are planning for this year in hopes to give some insights and maybe some ideas for the marketers listening to this interview?
So, it's interesting. What we have found over time is that we are a brand. And what I mean by that is we don't actually sell anything. I can't call up Jamie Dimon, the CEO of Chase, and say, hey, Jamie, you want to write a book? He's going to, what the hell is this? Yeah. So people either understand what we do and want to write a book, or they don't. We can't cold call people and sell our quote unquote services. Our process in what we do, either you want to write a book, you like how we will take you through our process to publish that book, or you don't. So ours is brand awareness. And one of the things that we're doing this year is we're doing more conferences so we can get out, spread the word, sponsorship. What we have found between the EO, YPO, some of the professional services conferences, financial planners, things of that nature, is that many of these people don't even know that there's a service out there available for them to be able to write their books. So ours is really getting the word out because there's no real quote unquote hardcore sell with what we do.
I love it. Okay. So you're looking at more, sponsoring more conferences and really building the brand and kind of top of funnel awareness so that people know that, hey, there's actually somebody out there that can take the ideas out of my head and turn it into a book.
Exactly. And for me, to do a lot of these conferences, it helps as well because, like I said, I actually get to go out, speak, and say, hey, I can't spell, can't tell you an adverb from a pronoun, but here I created my book. Here's how I did it. No, by the way, I just happen to be the CEO of the company, and here's why. So that in itself has lent itself as a great marketing tool.
I love it. What have been, JT, from, you've worked, you guys have worked with 650 plus authors. What have been the most strategic ways that you've seen authors kind of leverage having a book? There's the obvious, if they want to speak at more conferences and, kind of build thought leadership, but are there other benefits that you've seen that have come, even yourself having a book now, but particularly, the 650 plus authors that you guys have worked with? Is there anything that you've noticed that you thought, man, that's a really strategic way to leverage having a book?
The great majority of the authors that have come to us use the book for three reasons: thought leadership, credibility, lead generation. Most use it for all three. And I'm going to steal this. I told him I would. There's a financial planner that we worked with. He did his book with us, and he goes, "Oh, this is gold." And I go, "Well, why is that? Tell us how you're going to use the book." He said, "Well, when I have a high net worth client in my office and we're wrapping up, and I hand them 2 business cards and I say, hey, can you, anybody you can refer over to me, can you give them my card?" He goes, "I know before they leave my office, they probably throw my cards in the trash. But if I hand them 2 of my books and I say, hey, if you know anyone, can you give them a copy of my book?" He goes, now they're incentivized because now they look good to say, hey, my guy wrote the book on retirement planning. He says, so now they're incentivized to give that book out because it makes them look better. Handing a card doesn't do anything from that. It's just another card. Yeah. But to be able to say, my guy wrote the book on retirement planning, he goes, that incentivized them. When he told me that, I go, wow, that is pretty powerful.
No, that's super powerful. JT, I want to close with a question that I've been asking for the last few weeks, and I've really been enjoying the responses that I've been hearing. It has to do with legacy. JT, what would you say is the legacy that you want to leave?
So the legacy I want to leave, interesting enough, is how I actually got to Book in a Box. I was traveling a lot, and I realized if something happened to me, my children would not know where I came from. And I wanted my children to understand that we don't know where our last name came from because my mother was raised in an orphanage. I wanted my children to understand that my father was a black pimp and drug dealer in the 1970s. The fact that I had been in and out of juvenile 3 different times, that I've been sexually molested, that I've been left with my half brothers and sisters, that I've got 23 half brothers and sisters, all of those things, I wanted my children to understand where I came from, that I've gone to bed hungry. I lived on welfare. I was homeless. I barely have a high school diploma. There is no college degree. I wanted my children to understand where I came from. And more importantly, in that book, I wanted them to also see that I want you to hustle in life, but I also want you to give back. And one of the big pieces of the legacy for me is to give back to that very community of which I come from. I am hell bent, and I have this massive responsibility that I believe we can change the lower economic part of our society. People just don't know. If someone understands that, hey, you can be an entrepreneur, you can be a stockbroker, you can be a financial planner. But if you don't know those things even exist, how am I supposed to aspire to be those things? Yeah. So that's the legacy I want to leave, is to, 1, give back to my children, let them know where I came from. But 2, change that lower economic community, regardless of race, and let them know you can be whatever you want to be in this country. You really can. But if you don't know, how the hell am I supposed to do it?
That's so powerful. So powerful. JT, how, if for the person listening to this, first off, you just dropped a lot there about your background that I knew that we weren't going to be able to get into in this interview. But if you're interested, if you're listening to this and you're interested in hearing more of JT's story, go check out the 2 interviews that he did on Noah Kagan Presents. Noah's podcast is incredible. You're going to get way more insight into a lot of what JT just mentioned as far as his background, his dad being a pimp. And I mean, it's a fascinating story. So make sure and go subscribe to Noah's podcast, listen to those episodes. But if folks want to check out your book, JT, or they want to, follow you on social, stay connected with you, or learn more about Book in a Box, what's the best way for them to go about doing those things?
Oh, wow. Book in a Box is easy. bookinabox.com. Tell you everything you want to know about us. Phenomenal tribe, phenomenal company. So we're growing like crazy, like you said. Me personally, easiest way to find me is on LinkedIn. That's a great place. And then the book itself, it's called I Got There, How I Overcame Racism, Poverty, and Abuse to Achieve the American Dream. You can find that on Amazon.
I love it. Wonderful. All right, JT. Well, thank you so much for your time today. This has been fantastic, and I really appreciate it.
Oh, man, I appreciate you having me on. It's always fascinating to me that people actually want to hear what I have to say.
To ensure that you never miss an episode of the B2B Growth Show, subscribe to the show on iTunes or your favorite podcast player. This guarantees that every episode will get delivered directly to your device.
If you or someone you know would be an incredible guest for the B2B Growth Show, email me at jonathan@sweetfishmedia.com and let us know. We love connecting with B2B executives, and we love sharing their wisdom and perspective with our audience.
Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.